Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our services, if we can please kindly turn off all cell phones or electronic devices, or please place them on silent. Thank you.
Good morning. I'll try to lead the services in both languages. Я буду говорить по-английски и по-русски. И я постараюсь не повторять себя на двух языках. Мы сегодня провожаем Бориса в его последнюю дорогу на земле. Закончен его путь. Мы подводим черту, прощаемся с ним. И я уверен, что семья благодарна всем, кто пришел сегодня поддержать их и проводить Бориса. The funeral service consists of psalms, which are not only beautiful poetry, but also our, in a way, secret code to help the soul in her journey, to help in the restoration of the soul, in orientation of the soul. Псалм 144. О Господи, что такое человек, что ты о нем заботишься? Человек как улетающее дыхание. Его дни как тень. Утром он процветает и растет, а вечером он увядает. Ты заставляешь человека раскаяться и говоришь ему: вернись к своему естеству. Ибо когда человек умирает, он ничего не может взять с собой. Даже его слава, его добрые деяния остаются здесь, на земле. Господь освобождает души своих слуг от дальнейших страданий земной жизни и страданий физического тела. И те, кто доверял жизни, не будут забыты. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He brings me to the still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me for the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Though I walk in the valley of death, I shall fear no evil, because you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table in the presence of my enemies. My cup is runneth over. Surely goodness and blessings shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Господь пастырь мой, да не будет у меня нужды ни в чем. На пастбищах травянистых Он укладывает меня. На воды тихие приводит меня. Душу мою оживляет и ведет меня путями справедливости. Даже если до долины смерти, не устрашусь зла, ибо Ты со мной. Пусть только благость и милость сопровождают меня все дни жизни моей, чтобы пребывать мне в доме Господнем вовеки. Борис родился в Москве в 1940 году. He was born in Moscow in 1940, and the war started and took away his childhood mostly, because evacuation was extremely hard period for everybody, particularly children. And then he was studying and was drafted to army, and unfortunately he became military sailor for 4 years. Came back, graduated, became an engineer, and made a very good career as an engineer. Он возглавлял инженерный участок, был начальником строительного управления. He was a wonderful, open, generous, kind person, believing in people, always ready to help, even when he wasn't asked. He loved people, he loved company, He loved to dance. He loved to have a good time. With his wife, they've been avid backpackers and covered a lot of territory in Soviet Union. And he was a great father for Gera, and then he became a great dad like Katya and Sasha, granddad. He was very protective as a father, always ready to help, to defend, which he did a few times. And then it was immigration. He was working as a mechanic here. And again, he made many friends. And it was a struggle with his illness for a long time, until finally he succumbed to it. Был замечательным человеком, оптимистичным, веселым, открытым, любящим людей, готовым помочь, даже если его не просили. Был прекрасным инженером. Геля считал, что он своими золотыми руками может сделать все. Он действительно многое умел. И для нее он был не только отцом, но и другом и защитником, что требовалось не один раз. И он был прекрасным дедом для Саши и Кати. И сегодня у нас несколько человек хотят выступить. Это и Геля, и Костя, ее муж, и Саша будет говорить от внуков. Я прошу в любом порядке, как вы хотите. И прошу вас выйти сюда, здесь будьте готовы.
I just would like to say a few words about my father. You already heard about, his background. He was born in 1940. But some details that I just wanted to add. That when he came back from the Navy, came back home, unfortunately, his parents passed away already. So he was 23 or 22 years old without parents. He had two sisters. He was the youngest one. He was the baby in the family. So his two older sisters basically took the role of his mother, and they're taking care of him all his life, all their lives. So he loved them back greatly. When my father came back from the army, he didn't even have his high school diploma, and he dropped out of school before he was drafted. So luckily, he met my mom. They got married, and my mom guided him through all this, getting the diploma, getting through college. So he basically his mom's dream was for him to get the higher education. So he did that, and he was very good at what he did. Also, personality-wise, I never met anybody in my life with a bigger personality than my father. He loved everybody from the time he would meet people. And his motto was always, I would trust 10 people and be disappointed in one other than otherwise. So he trusted everybody. He helped people when even it wasn't requested. So people sometimes needed help, and they were wondering how was it that my dad all of a sudden came to their side and helped them, because they. So anyway, that was. He loved company. Our house was always full of people, and my father was always center of the whole group. People was drawn to him because he was very kind and very generous. For me, he was, when I was little, he was my hero, basically, as I was told already. That when I was in elementary school, I thought that my father could do anything. So when the teachers would ask who can help to build the shelf, I would raise my hand and say, my father can do it. So I don't know if he liked it or not, but I always told that my dad has a golden hands. And he was a really very handy person. He would always invent something. Like when we were in Russia, TVs back then didn't have the remote controls. So my father was watching TV and sometimes fall asleep. So he figured that he needs something to, some device to turn it off without getting up from the sofa. So he created the device, and people would come to our house and wonder, like, wow, that's amazing. So he made it himself. He would rebuild the apartment. He would do stuff that just because he felt like he can do things himself. And he also loved outdoor life with my mom. They used to do kayaking trips. They would go hiking, camping. They loved that, and that was a big part of his life. He was a very protective father, and he was a very proud grandfather. He loved his grandchildren greatly and always bragged about them to everybody. How smart Sasha is, how beautiful Katya is. It was like his pride and joy. So after my mom passed, my dad's, that was less than 2 years ago, my dad's health started to decline. No matter how we tried to help, there are many people around him who were trying to help. But I guess after being together for so many years, they became as a one person, and I don't know, maybe he didn't want to live without her, maybe he just couldn't. So, but last 6 months was terribly horrible for him. His health started to decline drastically. He was in pain. He was in mental pain as well. So I guess now he's in peace. He doesn't hurt anymore. I hope that he's gonna be taken care of by his parents, his sisters, my mom. So I wish he would be in peace now, and we will always remember him as a great person, amazing person. and I'm proud to be his daughter. I will drink, Daddy.
Thank you, Gina.
I'm going to talk about some memories of Boris that I have, and no matter how sad we are today, he did have a full life. He has a big family, a lot of friends, and I want to remember some of those good moments that we had together. To continue on what Gail had mentioned earlier, he was a Jewish MacGyver. That's what we call him. We actually used to watch that show together in the 90s, I think. He did have good hands, and I found out it the first time back in Moscow when Gail and I were dating. Parents went somewhere, weren't home for a few days, so naturally I came to Gail's apartment, went to see a show, we forgot the keys, and had to break the door. Fortunately, Boris reinforced the door with a metal plate, and after a few karate kicks, the neighbor came to our rescue with some tools to open the door. When I looked at the plate, it was well done. So that was my first encounter with Boris's handy skills. And then there were many more. We put a lot of stuff together, obviously, as being a young family, when we had kids, when we moved many times. Boris never looked at the instructions. He always put things together, just figuring things out. I would read instructions. He would sometimes go ahead of me. Sometimes we would have to redo things. But at the end, the product was always good. One of the really neat things he helped me make was I was working at the flower shop on Route 38 in the early 90s. And the owner used to live right behind this place on Haddonfield Berlin Road. They called it Smoky Joe House. So one time, we came up with an idea. I came up with an idea of building them a square watermelon, and Boris and I went to Home Depot and built this monstrosity in his small garage. Then we took his cousin's truck, brought it over, and the thing remained there for about, 15, 20 years until the house was sold and the owner moved out. One other great memory of Boris helping was building a tree house together. That was probably the best bonding experience. Alex was already 5 years old, or 4 years old, and that was kind of his legacy, sitting in my backyard. I will never forget it. I will not take it down. We'll probably extend it. Hopefully, maybe we'll have somebody else play in there. So those are MacGyver skills. One other thing to mention about Boris is that he was a great kisser, and a lot of you probably know about it. He would always kiss everybody, especially women. But he was a very, very big hugger and a kisser. Like Gail said, very big heart. And never complained. Like Gail said, the last couple of years were really, really tough. Not too many complaints, a true man. So I'm going to remember him very fondly. And he did, Gail's mom and Gail's dad were like my parents. I never called them mom and dad. I talked to friends about it yesterday, I think. But they were truly my mom and dad, because my mom and dad passed away early. So they filled that gap for me. and my relationship with both of them was very, very warm, and they treated me like a son. So, goodbye, Boris, and rest in peace.
So I have a bunch of like nice childhood memories from Boris, from my grandfather. I think the most basic things were really nice. He would always take me to like completely intolerable children's films, like Pokemon movies. He'd be the one to take me because these guys didn't want to take me. And so he was always very patient with me as a child, and would adhere to like the things I wanted to do. But I kind of going back to his golden hands and MacGyverness, a story I have with him that my parents had actually reminded me of was we were hired to rebuild the garage in our house. The goal was to insulate it and put new drywall up. And the story goes like this: we almost burnt down the house. We were disassembling some parts near the breaker, and I guess following in the same spectrum of not looking at the instructions, he decided Grandpa decided not to turn off the breaker. And as he's doing it, he shorts two things, and there's a big spark, and the entire garage almost engulfs in flames. So Mom, in her best Trump impersonation, says, "You're fired," and we never were allowed to work in the garage again. So I think that's one of my most fond memories. It took us maybe about a week or two to finish that project, and it was definitely one of the more intimate experiences. My grandpa was extended, and just us two working. It was quite nice. So that's, I think, how I want to remember him. Well-intentioned and a little clumsy sometimes.
We are going to conclude this service before we'll continue it at the cemetery with a memorial prayer which, according to the tradition, accompanies the soul and enlightens its path. Please rise. Boris полный милосердия, надели вечностью душу Бориса, который покидает этот мир, окружи его своим светом и своей любовью, и позволь упокоиться в мире. И давайте все вместе скажем «Аминь». И прошу вас сесть.
Will the pallbearers please step to the center aisle? I'll ask if we can rise once more, please.
מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי לא אכסר, בנפשי ירבצני, על מם ונחות ינחלני.